We already introduced yourself, and then I will ask you a
Yes.
question. So basically, you're very lucky. So you have the best Gmat teacher in the UK, and you're going to understand why. So you want to introduce
Yes.
yourself, David, your background, your Gmat score, and so on and so forth. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, my name's David Chambers. I specialize in tutoring people in Gmat and also in GRE increasingly.
Okay.
And I've been teaching and tutoring Gmat now for about 17 years. I think I'm probably the most experienced tutor in the London area. And it's worth pointing out that these standardized tests, Gmat and GRE, come from a long history of the American tradition of standardized testing. That is where your workings are unimportant because they'll never be seen, then the only thing that matters is the answer. Also, it's worth pointing out that you can write a very good application for Gmat, for business school. But it's historical. You can put the best spin possible on your experience and your undergraduate credentials and your interests and so on. But the only objective measure of your attractiveness to the school that you can influence right now is your standardized test score. And when all is said and done, a very high score it won't guarantee that your admission to a school, but it will certainly improve your chances of serious consideration and, crucially, securing an interview. So I would say it's a necessary but not sufficient condition to score reasonably well on Gmat. Now, some people have very, very compelling narratives of their lives to tell where you're not really admitting them to business school because of their sort of intellectual firepower. What I'm talking about here is, well, typically people with a military background who may not be able to score incredibly high on these standardized tests, but will have a fairly compelling leadership story to tell. For people who have, we might call civilian jobs, normal jobs, so to speak, that is work in offices, strategize, model, meet, travel, and so on, then it is useful to be able to score high on Gmat. And as I mentioned, GRE as well, because over the past few years, more and more business schools have considered the GRE graduate record exam as an alternative to Gmat, which is the management aptitude test. There's a lot of folklore about this, in that some people say Gmat's easier or GRE Mat is easier, Gmat's more difficult, and so on. In the end, business school admission staff are perfectly capable of moderating and handicapping the two scores on the two tests to equalize them. So you should choose the test that you feel most comfortable doing.
So it's true. Thank you very much, David, for this introduction. It's true that we have an increasing number of students asking for the GRE versus the Gmat because they find it's easier. And we had recently, by the way, two students, one from UCL and one from SLD, who got a perfect math score. So they got 170 of 170. So it's, So David, what is your experience? How do you teach the Gmat? What is your approach when you teach the Gmat, and what recommendation would you give to people who have 2 to 6 months to prepare the Gmat?
Okay, well, the first thing I'd say is that if you have enough spare time, 2 to 6 months is perfectly adequate. You really don't want to spend more time preparing for a test such as this than 6 months. Typically, I meet people 2 to 3 months before they plan to take the test. Now, what's the best way to proceed? Well, bearing in mind that you want to get best value out of your tutoring hours, the first thing I recommend people do is sign up on the MBA website, or it's called mba.com is the Gmat website, or the GRE website, and actually secure a test date. It's difficult to prepare for a test if you don't even have an endpoint in sight. So I think, as a matter of discipline, to allow you to focus and build a revision timetable, preparation timetable, it's firstly, secure a test date. Secondly, for both tests, what I recommend people do is take a full practice test, a kind of dress rehearsal, into as close as exam conditions as possible at the very beginning, before you've done any preparation. Now, of course, the score is going to be disappointing. But that's not really the purpose. The purpose here is to give you an idea of just what the dimensions and the scale of the challenge facing you are, and to give you some idea of the pace. It's notable that although both the tests we're discussing require no more than high school maths, that is the maths you've learned by about the age of 15 or 16, and just grammatical English and a little bit of critical thinking. So the syllabus is not particularly exotic, no trigonometry, no calculus and so on, no imaginary numbers, but pace matters. In other words, you are under considerable time pressure. And so to do to complete a test at the very beginning of your preparation journey allows you to get a feeling for how crucial it is, not just to get the questions right, to get the questions right on a very rapid kind of tempo. Next, I recommend the second step is for you to buy the official guides, whether it's GRE or Gmat, which are all available on Amazon. I think there's 3 official guides for GRE and there's 4 official guides for Gmat. And what that gives you is basically a question bank and also some quite useful review material, but mostly a question bank of thousands of questions for both exams. And I think it's asking a lot of people to sit and just read through an algebra textbook for an hour or so. People just can't focus. So the best thing to do, I find, is to actually learn by doing, to prepare by doing questions. The questions you'll find in those books I just mentioned are authentic GMAT and GRE questions, which are retired, but still have been created by the owners of the tests, which is why I accentuate the official guides and to a lesser extent guides produced by third parties such as The Economist or Kaplan or Princeton and so on. They're useful if you actually exhaust all the authentic questions. Then it's helpful to step down to third party providers as well. Now, as you go through this process, you'll recognize there are certain issues which you can sort of isolate, where you're strong and where you're weak. And then it may be useful to take some tutoring or teaching. Some people go on courses, which are provided by a variety of again, third-party specialists. Some people for tutoring. It's a matter of budget and timetable flexibility. Of course, and over the past year, pretty much all GMAT tutoring and training has gone online. In large cities, particularly, I know London quite well, there are in-person classes, or there will be once this strange period is over. Some people thrive in face-to-face classrooms. Some people find that online tutoring or teaching works fine as well. And one more point. So what you should do then, as you proceed through this, is to actually have a reasonably strict timetable. Not heroic. Some people say to me, I'll do 6 hours a day. Well, you won't, because you certainly won't give your best over 6 hours. This is exhausting, intellectually exhausting. So 2 or 3 hours a day is fine, as long as you stick to a steady, measured, metronomic pace. And from time to time, you should also complete a test, a full test exam to monitor your progress. Now, you'll find that there are many commentators online who can talk about how to adopt certain questions. You'll find it on Reddit, you'll find Gmat, you'll find Gmat Club. It's, as with everything online, it's necessary to approach some of people's responses with a modicum of caution, but it's certainly useful to understand how other people approach these questions. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have any question on the Gmat? I don't know, Hassan. I don't know, Malfada who is attending. So who wants to ask questions?
No.
Yeah, Hassan, do you have questions? Have you started to prepare the Gmat or the GRE, Hassan?
And no, not really. Honestly, I'm not aware of what they are.
Okay, so you
Shall I
maybe you
just
should go-
explain the basics of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, yes. Before that, I didn't know what it was.
Okay, so I'll to save time, I'll stick to I'll restrict myself to GMAT. GRE's got a very similar story to tell. GMAT is a test that was developed by in the United States in the mid 1950s to at the request actually of a small group of Ivy League business schools, notably Harvard. It was a very simple, very rudimentary, very low-key kind of thing in those days, but it has been around, as you can see, for more than 60 years. Now, what is it? It's a test of 4 pieces, a maths section, a verbal section, writing a short essay, and also a sort of what they call an integrated reasoning section, which is questions, slightly more complicated questions that require both maths and English interpretation. As I said, it cleaves to the American tradition of what they call standardized testing, where it's what we would call multiple choice, where you simply choose one of the 5 answers that's presented. There are 31 questions in the maths, or what they call the quantitative section, and there are 36 questions in the verbal section, that is about English. There's 1 essay, and there's 12 of the integrated reasoning questions that I mentioned. Now, what's notable is you have an hour for the maths section, an hour for the verbal section, half an hour for the essay, and half an hour for the integrated reasoning. So overall, that's 3 hours with some breaks into punctuating that. And as you can see, you're on a tempo there of about 2 minutes or less than 2 minutes per question. So pace matters. What we're not accustomed to, coming from outside the United States pedagogical tradition, is that there's no credit given for showing your workings. I don't know about you, but in all my educational career, the questions would say, show your workings in full. And so even if you got the question wrong, you get some credit for an elegant approach. These tests, GMAT and GRE, are quite the opposite. The only thing that matters is the answer. Workings are unimportant. Furthermore, you are provided with 5 possible answers. Every question, there's 5 answers, A, B, C, D, and E, for you to choose. And so you aren't working, as we say, blind. These aren't blind questions that we're used to that have no answer choices. The idea is to select one of the answers rather than calculate the answers. Now, that selection versus calculation, that may sound like I'm making a distinction without a difference. But actually, one of the keys to doing well on GMAT is to harness the answers, to harness the answers and think about whether you can back calculate. So what I'm getting to now, which would take far too long to go into today, is there are a set of very useful techniques and slightly different ways of thinking, which will allow you to attack these questions, these multiple choice questions, far more effectively, far more quickly and reliably than the way in which basically we've done exams all through our school and university lives. So as I say, long exams, 3 hours, they do give you short periods for breaks. Exams that test your maths and English ability, but more than that, in both cases, of course, I mentioned earlier that we're talking about high school maths. They're not interested in your high school maths ability. They're interested in your pattern recognition abilities. They're interested in how accurate you are, how fast you are, and whether you can find ingenious, effective ways to answer the question at hand and nothing else. And accuracy is very important. It's very easy to misread these questions. While it's true that the syllabus is high school level, the questions certainly aren't. They're devious and they require very careful consideration.
Okay,
Does that help, Hassan?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was, thank you.
Anyway, so Thomas de Lamberti. So thank you very much, David. So now Thomas is going to is a student of ours. Thomas, can you unmute? So Thomas, can you tell us who you are? Okay. I know that how we met, etc. So who are you, Thomas? So you're currently a student at University of Bath. Tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm a student at the University of Bath, a second year management student. We met with Hubert this summer. He explained me everything about Gmat, and we started a bit studying together. I think for all of the Gmat preparations I've seen, this one is the better because they are doing everything for you and showing some small techniques that could help you achieve like small points, which at the end will give you a better score. Yeah.
Basically,
Then
Thomas, so what we're doing is that what we do with you, we do admission consulting. Okay, so we're going to, of course, you can work with David after that. We said that David will come to give a class, but the work that we'll have together will be about your application. You see, Thomas?
yeah.
Okay. So basically, I'm going to tell you how we met Thomas. We can see you, David, now.
Good.
So I met Thomas because I had two students from University of Bath who got accepted to good schools. So one was, I forgot her name. She got
David in LBS.
Yeah, there was David who got accepted to LBS and ESSEC. So LBS MIF, LBS MFA, and ESSEC MIF, and also a girl, Pearl, who got accepted to a PhD at University College London in bioengineering. Okay, so we had two very, very good results. So because we work on the applications, and then decide to talk to other people, to you, to Lucas, and then we have now close to 10 students from University of Bath who are preparing the application with us. Okay, and we thought with David that we could organize a class at University of Bath, but because of the lockdown, it did not happen. You remember, David? We prepared the
Yes, I do remember
the
that
plan, and nothing is going on. So David was supposed to go to University of Bath, but I hope that this fall he will be able to go because UK universities are closed. So the idea was to have like one class in October, November, and one class in February, March. Okay. So Thomas, what is your background exactly?
So I've been studying in Madrid for 3 years during high school. Then I went to Paris. Now I'm studying in Bath. I've done a few activities like extracurricular activities as Bath entrepreneurs in Bath, other societies, and also a lot of internships, summer internships that I think could help me and in general help people achieve it would give people things to say during the oral presentation.
Yeah. So basically what we noticed, because I have a lot of French students from University of Bath, so what we noticed together is that, of course, the French students that we have studying at Bath, but they're international, they are usually part of many societies, so they have leadership or they exhibit leadership. Their grades are between 2-1 and first. I have, by the way, all my students from Bath, they have 2-1. I don't have first. Okay. They have 2-1s, but still because they got a good Gmat, and they have quite a lot of work experience because every summer they had an internship. So they are good candidates. Usually the problem that we have, since they are 2-1s, and usually they come with a Gmat that is not outstanding. So we have a problem on that respect. That's why I suggested that in addition to the admission consulting, we work with David, so we could guide you. So we have an e-learning platform, but David could give a group class. That's the idea, that he offers a group class so that you can do personal work and also group class. So Thomas, what are the schools that you're targeting? Sorry, first, why you don't want to start to work because you're an entrepreneur, you have already created a company. Why you don't want to start to work right after the bachelor?
Well, because going into good universities gives you a lot of contacts, I think, and also because many companies usually look a lot at your grade like at your graduations, I say, or at your university background. Whereas even if you are good at something you do, they won't take you if you haven't done studies on it, if you haven't studied it. And I'm targeting a few schools in France, especially HEC, ESSEC, ESCP, and in the UK, LBS or LSE. But I know that many of the people you have helped have achieved other schools in Spain as IE or SAD, or in Italy as the Bocconi.
Okay.
So we have a range of choices.
So basically, you have to know that I would say out of 100 students, 80 will choose a master in management. Okay, and the master in management that they choose. So the most popular are HEC, ESSEC, ESCP, LBS, LSE, Imperial, okay, and INSEAD. So 7 really popular, and St. Gallen. So we have 8. But I would call that the brand MIM. 15 would take the master in finance, okay, because especially for those who already have like a BBA, they don't see the point of getting of applying to a specialized to a general management masters, okay, to what we call an MIM. And when they choose MIF, it's always the same school, so it's HEC, ESSEC, ESCP, LBS, LSE, Oxford, and now we tend to have quite a few who apply to MIT as well, okay. Basically, so, and all our students, but they want 2 things. They want to work either in management consulting, okay, usually most of the time it's business transformation, or they want to work in investment banking as an M&A analyst. It's always the same profile. Very few entrepreneurs, few people want to work in marketing, so it's always consulting, which is, by the way, strange when we write the essays, because we're the thing that we're always writing the same type of essays, so we try to find a new approach, etc. So that's where we stand. So basically, Thomas, so we have decided we have a program together. So the idea would be that you take your GMAT at the latest. I guess you want to take your GMAT what in August, September, something like that.
Yeah, in maybe July or August.
Yeah, because you want to start your preparation more like this summer, and then you want to prepare the applications more like in fall, so that you can send your application in January.
Yes,
something like this. Okay,
exactly.
So what else can I say? So basically you understand what has to be done. So schools have different criteria, okay, but in reality 2 really matters: the GMAT and the application, and finally the essay. But I don't think that the interview, is the most difficult part of the application to process. The most difficult part is the GMAT, definitely. Okay, David, is there a type of profile that does well on the GMAT and a type of profile that does not do well? Do you think that we are all equal in front of the GMAT, or they are unfortunately biased?
Sorry, that's me. My mistake. Go on.
So do you think that they are biased? Do you think that we are all equal in front of the GMAT, or do you think that there are profiles that are privileged over others when they prepare and take the GMAT?
Yes, there's been extensive work has been done on that actually by the owners of the test, and it's found that people with a reasonably strong quantitative background, not surprisingly, do better. So as I recall, there are actually, if you want to look into this, you'll find detailed statistics on the MBA.com website, GMAT's website. But as I recall, the people who score best on GMAT are people with a physics degree, because as you can imagine, you need quite a high level of general intelligence for physics, and also need to be very good at maths, but also able to write. So physics, maths, and also economics, which is a more mainstream degree where people with economics undergraduate degrees tend to do quite well on these tests, because of course economics is an agreeable blend of both mathematics and critical reasoning and writing essays and so on. What they call persuasive prose is the code word they use, meaning essays or writing samples designed to persuade the reader of a particular opinion or argument. So those are the people who do best. People who have not studied maths since high school, inevitably, there's no way of sugaring this pill, inevitably do start from a small disadvantage. However, many of my clients come to me and will tell me that they are variously said they're no good at maths, they don't understand maths, that they're frightened of maths. There is a lot of maths fear, I notice. And in my experience, it's possible for people who have not studied maths since they're 15 or 16 to get a perfectly respectable score on these tests. And here's the reason. Typically, and this is certainly true of my own experience, their maths teachers weren't very good. The beauty of maths is it's a system and it all clicks together in a coherent, internally supportive framework, which seems to me is just not taught very well at school. And so it's possible, actually, for people who are what they might say very rusty on maths to get good enough for GMAT. Now, I say good enough. We don't need to do trigonometry or calculus or logarithms or complex number theory or any of those more advanced subjects. It's pretty, as we say, bread and butter maths that's needed, arithmetic, algebra, a little bit of simple geometry. But the point is that typically I find that everybody I meet is capable of either doing or improving up to the level needed to attain a reasonable score.
That's the thing. So, so basically, do you have questions? We still have 12 minutes. So, Malfada, for instance, or Nicola. Yeah, Nicola.
Yeah, I do have a question. Hi, Nicholas.
Nicola, go ahead. Yeah, Nicola.
Yeah, I do have a question. So, how long are GMAT results and scores valid for? So, can you pass the GMAT, set the GMAT, get a good score, and then wait like for several years before applying, or?
So, David.
Oh, yes. So, yes, 5 years, actually. Good question. 5 years.
Okay.
There is a lifetime limit on the number of times you can take this test. And there's also a limit, I think, of 5 times per year. This is to stop people becoming frantic and just taking the test again and again and again. But it is, so two points come to mind. Firstly, people put a lot of pressure on themselves about these tests. But it is worth pointing out that if things don't work out well the first time, you can always take it again 3 working weeks later, as I recall. And so that's unlike our experience at university or school, where the exams we took were all or nothing. So you can take the test again. It's a bit of a bore, but it's not the end of the world if your first attempt on either of these tests is disappointing. And that's frequently the case, actually, because people do wind themselves up quite a lot about these tests and get very nervous. In fact, I know that 20% of the people taking GMAT, 20% of all test takers are, I can see a LinkedIn thing on the...
yeah, so what I want to show you,
yeah.
if you see to answer to you, Nicola, I had a student like this, okay? Her name is Victoire, okay? And, you know, she graduated from HEC Montreal. I don't know if you know HEC Montreal, so it's a school,
Yeah, I do.
Quebec. And after HEC Montreal, which is here, no, McGill, sorry, she went to McGill, okay? Then she decided to prepare the GMAT because she had a bachelor, a bit like you, okay? But it was a long time ago, huh? Okay? So she prepared the GMAT to enter HEC, and she took the GMAT, I think something like in 2001, okay, and she got into the HEC MIM. At that time, the HEC MIM was not called an MIM, by the way, but it's like an MIM, so it is what we call the Grande École Programme, okay. And then I remember that in 2005 she came to see me, and she had a 720, and she told me, Hubert, I will never get a 720 again. Well, I was not willing to work a lot. So I need to apply to an MBA as soon as possible. I don't know if she put her GMAT score or she didn't put her GMAT score, but she got a 720, remember? And then we prepared the Stanford application, you see? And then she got the MBA at Stanford. So which is strange, you see, David, is that she got she got HEC and Stanford with the same GMAT score. You see,
That's
because
impressive.
she used it for 5 years. You see,
Yeah,
Victoire Guyot.
that's
fine,
right.
no?
So it's a five. It's so the GMAT score is good for 5 years. That's right. After which you have to refresh by taking it again.
Alors basically, you can take the GMAT 5 times over 12 months. Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, I guess. So Thomas is going to leave us. But by the way, if you want to talk to Thomas, Thomas is helping us. So Thomas, last word before you leave. So what are the pieces of advice that you have for Nicolas, Hassan, Carla? Go ahead. Hello.
Starting to study as soon as possible. I think that's it. If you have any questions, just send me a DM, Nicolas. You know me, Carla too, and Hassan. You have my one of my emails here on the call. So just send me a question, and I'll be happy to.
Can you leave your email, Thomas? Huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it on the chat
before you leave. So Thomas is a student at is a student ambassador at University of Bath, and is so yes, I think that Thomas, I will get him at LBS, probably LBS ESSEC, Thomas, LBS ESSEC, yeah, probably.
We hope so.
That's our target school. Okay, so basically,
okay.
So you see that we're very good, we're very good results, and it's our ability to assess the profile, and we have so many students applying that we have a pretty good idea when they come where they can get accepted. By the way, you see, David, there are ways, but you see there are other options. As you know, for instance, if you're really bad on the GMAT, which can happen, you can take, for instance, the ESCP test called SHL. Okay, so it's an option. If you want to go to Spain, whatever, you can take the IGAT for Instituto de Empresa. Okay. For Instituto de Empresa. So basically, it's the way we do. Okay, you see, Nicolas. So Thomas. So basically, if you cannot make it, okay. So basically, for instance, David, what I've noticed in the UK, then you know, a lot of people stop mathematics when they are 15 years old. Okay, you have a system of I levels, O levels, etc.
Yeah.
Some people leave at an early age, so you have to go to that. So
I couldn't listen to the question.
No, but Thomas, if you have to go, but we stay in contact, okay?
Yeah, of course.
Please ask students to ask you a question, okay?
I just put my email on the chat, and I think Carla asked something. How long does it take to prepare the GMAT test through the MBA Center?
Okay, so basically it would be David. So basically with David, what have we decided? We have decided that we have like a two months class.
2 to 3 months.
Yeah, 2 to 3 months.
Just on that. Statistics show that the typical, the median actually, amount of time people spend preparing for GMAT is about 100 hours. Again, statistics show that there's a almost linear relationship between score and amount of time spent preparing up to 100 hours, just climbing. Beyond 100 hours, things tend to flatten out a bit, but still the score continues to creep up. So my suggestion is then that this is not written in stone, but 100 hours should be the approximate amount of time you should spend preparing. That is both reviewing books, which, as you can see, I'm not particularly keen on just reading textbooks, both reviewing materials and also doing the questions, and also, crucially, inspecting the answers you got wrong and understanding why. So this is actually preparation by exception. You don't learn from the top down, you repair the gaps or holes in your knowledge. So as I'd say, about 100 hours. Now, some people have jobs which require insane amounts of effort, 10, 12, 15-hour days. And so it's quite difficult to fit that around the daily work week. They have to concentrate their work at weekends. If at all possible, I think it's good to work 7 days a week. Not many hours a day, but to maintain that continuity. It's rather like... it's more like learning the piano than riding a bike, because, as you know, you never forget how to ride a bike. But if you don't practice your instrument, you will start sliding backwards. So a little bit every day. It's incremental, it's productive, and it stops you becoming frustrated or bored with the process, which is fatal. Now, That 100 hours I mentioned, 120 maybe if you're feeling very enthusiastic, can typically be completed within 2 months.
Okay. Another thing that I advise, I don't know if you advise something like this, advise that you find also a study buddy. When you prepare the test, you know, David, sometimes you can be discouraged.
Yes.
You saw that the students I work with that you send me, they are usually bright people, so they get 700, okay? And they are intellectually bright, and you help them get a good score. But for some people, it's difficult. It's a long process. So try to find, especially if you're at the University of Bath, try to find a study buddy who is also preparing the Gmat. So okay, let's have classes, and also let's do a test together, for instance, and review tests together. I think it's something that I strongly suggest. Huh? You agree? So basically, so to sum up, so I will sum up, and then David will sum up. So if you organize a class at Bath, David will be the teacher. He agreed to be the Gmat instructor. So basically, so you understand. So now there is the question of the planning, okay? Because David mentioned 100 hours. But you're lucky, you David, that they need 100 hours, okay? You have to see that we have a lot of students, for instance, in our network who are not natives or who don't speak English very well, and for them it's more like 250 hours. Huh? And I've noticed that they need more, because you're going to see that one of the key problems you're going to have is the verbal section of the test.
Yes.
So basically, to sum up, okay, I've told you what is important. So what is important is your grade, your degree, your GMAT, your leadership experience, your internship, your leadership, your work experience, the international exposure, and the project. Okay, so try to be in line with what the school is expecting. Okay, now if you want to be a consultant, you're not going to lie. You want to be a consultant, but of course, if you have like 2 options, try to take one that is a bit more original. By the way, if you apply, for instance, to LBS MIM, so the LBS MIM, you see, David, is the most popular program that we have in our network. They ask you always a plan A and a plan B, so you can always mention your plan A and your plan B, and play around that. And so basically now preparation. So I now have students from University of Bath who are going to apply, to send the application next month or the month after. Okay, and I have we have students like Thomas who are going to apply next year. Okay, so if you want to apply for next year, there are things to do. First, prepare the GMAT, but also you can improve your application. Okay, get an internship. You're already in France, you're French, and you stay in the UK, by getting an internship, for instance, in Spain. Okay, so improve your international exposure, improve your GMAT. Okay, be member of more societies, be more committed into. Okay. Prepare on time, make a lot of contacts. Okay, attend webinars, make contacts, alumni, and mission officers. Okay, and of course, leave yourself time to get ready. So, for instance, for time being, I have French students who are preparing the French GMAT called Taj-Maj. Okay, so they told me that they have 1 month off. They will go back to class in February 18. So if you have like 1 month, then go for it. Okay, 1 month may be enough. David suggested 100 hours. So in 1 month, you can easily complete 100 hours. I would say that the secret of success is timing, and is also to have a plan A and a plan B. Okay, you get 700, great. You'll be accepted to probably Duke, HEC, LBS, Saint-Gall. 650, well, it's more ESSEC, ESCP. No GMAT at all. Okay. For instance, there are other options. So there are other options. There are other options, such as also I have students, for instance, who get Bocconi or ESADE, SEMS program. So year 1, they go to Bocconi, they take you with a 580. Year 2, they complete the second year of the masters at LSC or HEC. So there are many options. Huh? Okay. So that's what I have to say. So famous last word, David, who is in a great shape today. Huh, David? No, you seem to be in a great shape today. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, I'll tell you my own experience. My background is chemical engineering, so I do actually have that built-in advantage of quantitative degree. But I'll tell you what I did. At the time I applied I went to London Business School, and I did pretty much exactly what I just described to you guys. I bought the books, I went home, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, I took the test, I got 630 from no preparation. As you would expect, you know, I'm a native speaker with a quantitative background. It was okay, but it wasn't good enough. And this is what I did. I went along to the University of UCLA Business School, where graduate students and postdocs and so on provided GMAT prep classes. And there were 4-hour classes. I went to 6 of them every Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. And so I did the 24 hours of preparation in a class at UCLA, followed up over 6 weeks, followed up by 2 weeks of just polishing up by myself at home. And that was therefore an 8-week process. And I improved by 100 points. I got up to 730, which was enough for LBS. Over the years, because I teach this, I take the GMAT from time to time. I'm now up to 760. And there may be another 10 points to squeeze out of me. But my point is that preparation works. And with most of my clients, if I aim for 100 point or more improvement, I'd be disappointed if it's less than 100 points. And with or without tuition, people should be able to improve their scores substantially. As I say, 100-point improvements are quite achievable. And once I do actually have a customer at the moment. She's improved. He's improved from the mid 500s, and now he's consistently hitting 760. He'll be taking his GMAT on Wednesday, so he's improved by 200 points. And he works very hard. We have productive sessions. He does his homework. He tries to take on board our discussions, and every week I can see him improve. So practice works. That's what I'd say.
Okay, so it's a very good thing. So I can attest, because the last 2 students that we got from David, they have scored above 700. So the score was enough for what they were aiming. So the last thing that I want to say, so David mentioned a student who scored 760 at home. So sometimes you may be a bit disappointed by what you scored, the score that you get at home and the score that you get the day of the test. Okay, so some people are consistent. So, you know, for instance, Susanna that you sent us, she was scoring 730, 740, and she got 720. Probably the other student as well that you sent us. But yeah, for that you have to be careful. Because, for instance, you know, when you register for the GMAT, you get 2 free tests through the website columbia.com, and you may be surprised between the discrepancy between what you get at home and what you get the day of the test. So I would suggest that you use the software of several publishers. So good softwares are offered by Expert Global, eGmat, etc. Of course, the official test, but there are only 6 available. I don't know how many tests you require, David, your students to prepare, but you know,
I try to stick to just the official tests, and I think 6 is enough. Okay. Because I figure if you're not doing well after 6 tests, I don't think the 7th's going to make that much difference.
Yeah. So sometimes you see, David, we have students who take the test 30 times. We give them 30 tests, but it depends on the student as well. So for instance, I don't know what you advise, like 3 weeks before the test, but for instance, I think you advise that you take even 1 test per day. And I agree with David. You say, okay, if you're weak at math, it's not taking a test that's going to improve, but at least you will demystify the test, because it becomes. Every student who told me that, the title doesn't. How can I say? And it tells me, some students tell me, like, now taking the GMAT is like having a coffee. Okay, so that's something important as well. So don't forget that a lot of people lose their don't do very well because of the stress, because of that. And if you take a lot of tests, at least the stress will not appear again, because it will become something so easy. But I agree that you, as an educator, David, you say, okay, if you don't do well on 6 tests, why would you do well on 7 tests? Okay. Yeah. But you know,
just one point. Actually, I mentioned earlier that about 20% of the people taking GMAT are taking it for the second time. And there are statistics that show that the typical improvement is 30 points of individuals who take it the second time over the first time. And I think that's because they're feeling calmer, less stressed. The second time round, I've noticed that people are far less anxious than the first time round because they've been through it once.
So basically, let's move from there. So we have another seminar now. So you can stay in contact with us, huh? Nicolas, Malfada, Fuang, etc., Carla, Hassan, etc. And we will revert to you, and we'll start to see how we can collaborate with you. So yes, there will be a class this fall at the University of Bath with students who will graduate in 2022. Okay. I guess that they will open campuses. I'm sure that they will open, and we'll work with one of the societies at Bath to see how we can get open. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye bye.